By the way, who made a better deal for their disappointing quarterback? Wentz, the number 2 pick, got a third-round pick this year, and what could be a first-round pick next year. Joe Douglas got a 6th-rounder this year, a 2nd-rounder next year, and a 4th-rounder next year. Who did better, Douglas or Roseman? I'd like to pit those two guys up. The football guy up against the most hated man in the Delaware Valley. Bob Wankel's back. Talk a little Phils, as they have been a hot topic of conversation today. Bob Wankel, who joins me now here on the Boardwalk Honda Hotline. Who made the better deal, Douglas or Roseman? How about that?
I'm not a huge Howie Roseman guy, but I think he got the better of that. I guess Carson Wentz's track record, at least he's done something at some point, even if it was 4 years ago. I would go with Roseman's deal on that one.
All right, so he wins something in this town. It's amazing. It's unbelievable. Good weekend for the Phils, and I thought what was interesting about it, Bob, was, we talked a little bit about it on Friday, but Saturday and Sunday, the opener, we were like, okay, they won the opener because of pitching and defense. The pitching didn't go away, amazingly enough. You got I think you can rank them, Wheeler, Eflin, Nola, the way they pitched. I'm not saying that's the way you would rank them in the rotation, but that's an encouraging sign. One of my top 10 predictions this year was that the Phillies' top 3 would be the best 3 in the National League East, and so far that's right.
You're off to a very good start on that front. You couldn't ask for 3 better starts than the Phillies gave, or the Phillies starters gave in that opening series. I mean, they shut down the top of the Braves lineup almost entirely, getting almost 7 innings per guy. I know that, Aaron Nola came up 1 out short on Thursday, but they were sensational. I mean, you couldn't ask for anything more than what they gave you in that opening series against what is, I still believe, going to be one of baseball's 5 best lineups in terms of run production.
Yeah, and I know that they only scored 9 runs over the weekend. We'll get into the offense in just a second. But obviously the starting pitching was outstanding. But really the story has to be the fact that the bullpen has yet to give up a run. And it seems like, I don't want to say that he's got some favorites or some roles, but he's obviously likes Alvarado. He's a guy he's called on a couple times already. And Neris got the call all 3 days so far.
Yeah, Hector Neris is actually going to be unavailable tonight. Joe Girardi told reporters before the game that he's going to give him a day off. So Alvarado is available. I would imagine if the Phillies are tied or holding a lead late, you would see some combination of Bradley, Alvarado, and probably Connor Brogdon. I think he kind of used that as the hierarchy of the bullpen at this point. To be honest with you, obviously Hector Neris made things a little bit interesting there in the 9th inning yesterday, but this bullpen to go out and record 22 outs to start the season without allowing an earned run. I tweeted it out yesterday. There was only one time last season that the Phillies bullpen went out in back-to-back games, 2 games in a row, and didn't allow a run. So to do that 3 consecutive games right here at the start is a very, very encouraging sign.
Really is. And you just heard there from Bob, who was on the call with Joe Girardi earlier. Neris will not be available. Connor Brogdon's a guy that we both like. I like him a lot. And you kind of mentioned if Neris kind of falters, that he might be the guy that could be, next up for closer. But I want to ask you about Archie Bradley, not the pitcher, the guy. I know it's kind of hard. I mean, we weren't at spring training this year, not able to kind of get in that locker room. But just from the outside looking in, I feel like he's one of those guys that the fans will end up loving, and that he's the kind of guy that if you have the right talent, that he's the right personality, that you would just be like, I really like this guy. So his role on this team more so than just the pitcher.
Yeah. It's an interesting point. One thing I'll say about the Phillies back when we were in the clubhouse, you have to go back to 2019 for this, but it's kind of it's a good group of guys. There's, I think, a lot of good guys in that clubhouse, but it's not a rowdy bunch. It's not like a fierce bunch. And not to say that they're not competitive or that they don't want to win or that they don't show emotion, but just, in terms of what they give to the media, in terms of what they give to the fans, Bryce Harper knows how to play the role, knows how to put the cleats on, knows how to brand himself, and does the bow out in right field. And that's great. But this team doesn't have that many guys that are just show a ton of personality outwardly. And so Archie Bradley, I think, does that and gives the fans something to kind of look at and rally behind. But I think he's going to be a really good clubhouse guy in terms of keeping morale up, bringing a little bit of fire, bringing a little bit of energy to what, frankly, I think has been a pretty docile clubhouse over the last couple of years.
I'm glad you brought up the Harper thing because I want to transition over to the offense. And I wrote a little piece about Bohm and what Joe Girardi said. I feel like tells me all I need to know about how they feel of Bohm. And it's that's why we hit him in the middle of the order. We know that he will hit the ball where it's pitched. I almost feel more confident than when he's up to bat than I do anybody else on this team. That includes Harper.
Yeah, I mean, you saw it yesterday. He falls behind 1-2, and the team at large was really struggling with runners in scoring position. I think when he came up in the eighth inning, they were 6 for 26 in the series. The runners in scoring position, like I said, he falls behind, gets a slider, stays back, and just pokes it right up the middle, base hit, gives the Phillies a lead late, and they go on to sweep the series. And you see a lot of younger hitters and really just a lot of hitters across baseball, regardless of age, trying to do too much, especially in big spots, over swinging. And we've talked about it a number of times, just an advanced approach, a mature approach with this kid, and he delivered in that spot there. And I think it speaks volumes about where he's at and his development as a hitter. And Joe Girardi, and I think a lot of people in that organization know it. And I think that ultimately you may see Alec Bohm end up moving into that 4 spot because I think he can give you potentially, and this is no knock on JT Realmuto, but I just think maybe more consistently good at bats and avoid prolonged stretches of slumps and protect Bryce Harper.
Yeah, I love what they said yesterday, that, the fact that he puts the ball in play. He said it himself. I just try to hit it where it's pitched. That's a thing you don't hear all that much. I know Mike Schmidt yesterday on the broadcast, he talked about exit velo. He said, I don't know that that's a stat that really has a lot of value behind it. I know we were kind of talking about that yesterday, but that to me, Bohm is that guy. Like, he'll hit the ball the other way. He sprays it to the gap. He's just going to punch it over the first baseman's head. He's an old school type of hitter, but he's a productive hitter. And I love the fact that the Phillies are entrusting him and putting him in the middle of the lineup instead of starting him in the back end of that lineup, which kind of struggled in the first series. They only scored 9 runs. I don't think we're all that worried about this lineup, but is there anything from that first series that maybe they looked to tinker?
I don't know. I think they'll probably stay the course here for at least a little bit. Given that they were coming off the series that they just had against the Braves, frankly, it's interesting you brought this up. I was going to ask Joe Girardi today. I talked about the approach they're going to take with him tonight. Do you try to get him early? If he's trying to get ahead in the count, do you want him to attack? Or do you want to try to grind out pitches and, run them up to 70, 80 pitches by the time the 3rd, 4th inning rolls around, like ideally? I didn't ask him that, though. What I really wanted to ask is, how long do you stay with what you have in center field? Because I don't know about you, but I wasn't really impressed with what I saw in center field throughout the spring, and I wasn't really impressed with what I saw in center field this past weekend. I think Adam Hazley had a couple hits. One was a bunt single. Thought he misplayed a ball out in center field that Ian Anderson singled on yesterday. I thought he took a poor route to the ball, and Roman Quinn struck out in 4 out of his first 5 at bats. So, how much rope do these guys get? How much time do you have? It's certainly with Quinn. I know he made a defensive play on Thursday that helped them win the game, but at some point you have to put together some type of competitive at bat, and he hasn't done that in very small sample. So it'll be interesting to see what they do there. But the offense in general, I wouldn't panic, and I wouldn't panic if they struggle tonight. You're facing the National League's best pitcher over the last handful of years, and I just would not press that panic button. There's a large enough sample of success from this lineup and enough good hitters in this lineup that I wouldn't really be overly concerned until you reach the 10, 15 game mark. If they're not doing it at that point, then I think you might make some adjustments.
Right, and I guess the next follow-up question would be, what's that adjustment? Is it Mickey Moniak, or do you make a 40-man move and go with Odubel Herrera? It's kind of hard. You don't have a season going on down there to see, hey, Herrera's down there hitting 475. He's just murdering AAA pitching. We got to do something. So that makes it even, or Kingery, he's not involved in everyday bats. Although, real quick on that, did you find it interesting that they listed Kingery as an infielder in the player pool?
Yeah, I did. I think that kind of lets you know where they're at with him. I think that their course moving forward with Scott Kingery is that if he's going to have success in this organization, he's probably going to do it as a middle infielder, as a second baseman, more likely than not. Let's stop, moving him in from, playing middle infield back to the outfield, moving him back and forth. So, yes, I did notice that, and I think that that's the way they're going with him moving forward. I don't know what the move is. You said it. There's not minor league games that you can look at this point. Yes, they're getting live at bats. Yes, they're working out on a daily basis. Obviously, you have to trust your coaches, your scouts that you have down there taking a look at these guys. I would imagine they'd probably wait a week or two, probably at least 2 weeks before they make any type of roster moves, unless it's an injury prompted type of situation. In terms of anything else that you would adjust offensively, I mean, maybe you tinker with the lineup a little bit. I could see Alec Bohm slotting in as your cleanup hitter moving forward. I don't think that that's out of the question. But right now, again, just way too early to do anything, especially if you're winning games. You give these guys every opportunity to kind of just feel their way through the start of the season.
All right, Bob, we had some questions from our viewers and listeners today that I want to get your take on that has to do with some of the pitching on this team. Now, we saw the first three guys that really obviously sparkled. So who are the guys, Moore and Anderson? Somebody said this. Let me pull this one up. All right. I don't know that I agree with this. Don't be fooled by one weekend. This team is still in desperate need of starting pitching. Do you concur with that?
I guess it depends how you define desperate. I really believe in the first three starters. I'm a Zach Eflin guy. I expect him to make a jump this season. And I don't think that what you saw yesterday is going to be the standard. I'm not telling you that he's going to be a National League All-Star or one of the 10 best pitchers in the National League, but I really do believe that he can be a quality number 2, number 3 starter on a playoff rotation. I believe that. I don't know what you're going to get out of Matt Moore or Chase Anderson. I think you need one of them to be pretty good, and then you can have some inconsistency from the other guy. I think that they have enough with this rotation to win, but they're thin. And if one guy gets hurt, like if a Wheeler or a Nola or an Eflin goes down, then yes, I would agree with that statement.
Yeah, Eddie wants to know, how do you think the 4 and 5 will be? That is Moore and Anderson. I mean, those two guys Anderson has been just a competitive guy. If he goes 9 and 8 or 8 and 9, I think you're thrilled. Moore's really the wild card.
Yeah, I look at both of these guys, and I think that they're going to give you quality competitive starts on most nights. I don't think they're ever going to go out and really dazzle you. I don't expect 7 innings, 2 earned runs or less from Matt Moore too many times through the rotation, but I do think that he can go out and keep you in a game. And really, when you get to that spot in the rotation, go across baseball. You look at guys number 4s, or you look at teams number 4s, number 5s. There are very few teams that are trotting out guys in those slots in the rotation where you say, oh, wow, look out. You're going to have your hands full tonight. I think both of these guys are veterans that can go out, be competitive, and give you a chance to win on most nights.
Here's one more about pitching. In other words, if the pitching can stay healthy, does it guarantee they win the division? I don't know if guarantee win the division, but I said it can guarantee that they are in the playoff mix if they stay healthy all season.
Yeah, that's been my expectation really since the start of spring training. I don't know if this team is a playoff team or not, but I do believe it's a team that can win and probably will win somewhere in the 85 to 88 game range. That's what I think. And a lot of that's obviously dependent upon the offense performing at the standard that we expect. But I think that there's enough pitching here right now that they will be competitive. And at the very least, I can say this. I believe that this front office will be in a position come the middle of July, the end of July, where they're going to want to add to what they have. I really believe that. I think that this is a team that will be positioned to make a playoff run, and I think that this front office will do something to try to add to what's here so that they can finally get to the finish line.
And Doug adds in, 3 wins without Harper or JT as factors is eye-opening. Well, and that's because the pitching and the bullpen was so good. It's not because their offense picked up the slack for those guys so much. It was because they scratched out a couple of runs and had great pitching and defense.
Yeah, best part of this weekend for me was that the Phillies played a very good baseball team, did not do what they do well, and still came away with 3 wins. And I think that good teams, probably cliche to say this, find a different way to win every single night. I think that the way that the Phillies won these 3 games, considering it's something they didn't do a year ago, is the thing that you should be most encouraged about from what you saw this weekend.
Now, they did sweep the Braves in 2019, and that ended up Braves win the division, Phillies win 500. So let's, it's fun, it's exciting. Go ahead.
Yeah, one thing I'll say about that, though, is that Atlanta took their 3 best shots this past weekend against this Phillies team. That 2019 series was a little bit different. Atlanta had a lot of injuries in the starting rotation. They were starting young guys that weren't ready for those games, guys that weren't their number 2, number 3 type starters in those games. So the Phillies sort of took advantage of I guess an advantageous situation. Whereas this was, hey, this is our best, this is your best. went out and they won those games. So this is a little different this year.
Bob Wankel crossing Broad. We'll be back on Friday as we'll 13 games against the NL East to start things off. Tough start as Will Ham, who's watching on Facebook, kind of chronicles there. All right, Bob. We'll see you Friday, man.
Mike, talk to you soon, man.
All right. He, like all guests, appeared to be the Boardwalk Honda hotline.